Hi everyone,
G'day.
and welcome to another Parkside Live. Thank you so much for joining us. We really are so grateful that you take the time to join our conversations. And tonight we're going to have a convo around becoming light.
We are, and as we talk about becoming light, I want to start off, and maybe this is a question that you can think about, but I want to ask you, can you tell me of a time when you felt you were famous?
Okay, I don't really think that I've ever felt famous. There was a time in my life where I used to sing and play music and do things around the place, and so from time to time people would ask me to sing or play at various events, and other people would know my name and I wouldn't necessarily know theirs, and I think that's probably the closest that I've come, like someone knowing me and wanting me to do something, but not famous on a big scale or anything like that, no.
Yeah, okay, not
And
really.
it's not really anything that I've wanted, but you know, maybe it was a little bit nice being wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was a time when I was part of a rugby club and we needed to raise money, and often we had raised money by making hoodies and selling them, and often with pretty witty sayings on the back. And then a year happened where we couldn't, for some reason, we couldn't make the hoodies. I can't remember the exact reason, but someone came up with a brilliant idea of a calendar.
I have this calendar.
And so there were a few of us selected, and I think it was very much a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like it was, as your tongue just went into your cheek just then. And we were living in Canberra at the time, and there was a mate of mine at the time who was out on a Thursday night in Canberra, and he was out at a particular club, and a girl came up to him and said, "You're Mr. January." And that was my month.
I know, I was like,
and he said,
January right here.
He wasn't even in the calendar, he didn't even play rugby, and without batting an eyelid, he went, "Yes, I am," and struck up a conversation with the girl on the basis of my appearance in the calendar.
Oh, what?
And so when I heard that, I felt pretty famous in that moment. And perhaps you can relate, perhaps you're watching this and you have more followers than us, so that's fine. We certainly live at a time when people are chasing fame. They want to be famous. They are chasing that spotlight. And that's great. You know, fame can be a platform that allows you to do good things. But what about for those who aren't in the spotlight? What about for those who are in the shadows, or to use a stage term, if you're waiting off to the sides while someone else is in the spotlight, or if you're talking about a theatre or someone's in the spotlight, what if you're in the props? What if you're in the orchestra? You don't get the spotlight. And so what does that mean for us? And we're going to explore this idea of what if there was a world where there was not a focus on the spotlight. And perhaps you've chased fame, perhaps you are famous, and perhaps you're on the other side, and you can see that fame itself is actually quite fleeting. And in fact, there's a famous quote by William Shakespeare, and he says that life struts and frets its hour upon the stage, and then 'tis gone. And perhaps you will get your hour upon the stage, perhaps not. We don't know the future. But what does it mean to be human beyond just that spotlight? So we're going to draw inspiration, as we do so often, from the scriptures, and we're looking from the Gospel of Matthew, and we're starting at chapter 5. I'm just going to read a few sentences here. And it says, "One day, as Jesus saw the crowds gathering, he went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples or students gathered around him, and he began to teach them. God blesses those who are poor, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, because they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, because they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, because they will be called children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you because of me and say all sorts of things against you. Be happy about it and be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember that the ancient prophets were persecuted in exactly the same way. Now, you may have heard that before. You may have never heard that before. But I wonder what stood out to you on that first reading as you watch this. What stood out to you?
Well, there's a lot of God blesses,
Mm.
but the things themselves didn't seem like blessings.
Mm.
Like, you know, Paul being persecuted, even just being humble.
Yes.
All of those things. It's like God blesses these, and then there were some things after that, you know, might seem good, but it was all like He blesses, but this doesn't seem like something good. Like He blesses maybe what the world doesn't see as good.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More
yeah.
important.
Yeah, yes. And I want to start by exploring here who.
Mm.
Who is this blessed?
Mm.
Who? And when we look at this crowd, and it says right here, there's a crowd, and as we live our lives, we move through the crowds. If you're in a city, you bump shoulders with people. Perhaps you're catching a train, packed in the crowds. You might be sitting in the crowds on a freeway as you're driving to work. We live in a world that is full of crowds. Often they're going somewhere, gathering at a big event, concert, we're all going somewhere. This crowd was drawn from the edges of the community. They were drawn from places far from the centres of power. This is a time when Judea was occupied by Rome. We don't read of too many Roman soldiers who gathered here. We don't read of too many leaders who were here. These were people who worked with their hands, who worked in farms, who caught fish, who often existed on one, maybe 2 meals a day, who used the light of the sun to survive and earn their money. People on the edges of this society, people whose voice was often shushed by those in power. And we see the state of those people, and perhaps you can relate. These people were poor. Now, when you read the Bible, some people will say poor in spirit, that's nice, but really what we're talking about is people who are poor. Probably relationally poor because they weren't going to parties, they were just working and going to sleep. And perhaps as you're watching this, you feel poor. You feel the lack of finances right now. You feel the lack of time to achieve everything you want to achieve right now. We see people who mourn, perhaps people who had lost someone, something, perhaps even people who have been pushed out of their homes. This crowd were people familiar with sadness. We see a crowd who are not proud or arrogant. We use the word humble. Perhaps humble here refers to an attitude. We can also describe people as living a humble life, which is really just a polite way of saying a very simple and basic life. And perhaps again, as we're going through this and you're watching, you're sensing, I feel like my life is humble. It's not where it is. You can relate to those who hunger and thirst for justice. And I think when I think of someone who is working for justice, what motivates them? I mean, what do you think would motivate someone to work for justice?
I think wanting to see people get equal treatment, equal rights, a better environment for living, not oppressed, so out of oppression into freedom.
And I think there are some incredible people who do that out of goodwill. They want to see those things happen. Others have experienced what it means to be oppressed. Others who have experienced injustice have that deep desire, that deep drive to see justice come. When you look back in history, the figures in history who stood for justice, Martin Luther King Jr. in America was himself a black man who experienced separation on the basis of his skin colour, who experienced being excluded from places on the basis of his skin colour. He worked for justice. Gandhi was a man who experienced the oppression of the British colonialism in his own country and resolved to use peaceful means to fix that. So those who hunger and thirst for justice have often experienced injustice. This is not fair, but injustice. And perhaps as you're watching this, you have a passion for justice, perhaps even because you have experienced injustice in your lifetime. We go on, and there are those here who are merciful and not harsh. We see those whose hearts are pure. Not necessarily those who keep the rules, but those whose hearts are in the right place. And we see those too who experience poor treatment because they want to see a different world. We read this phrase here, a kingdom of heaven. A place where the power does not come from the military might of the Romans that we talked about. A place where power does not come from the rules and systems enforced by the religious authorities. We see the crowds here, and perhaps you can find your place in that crowd. You see yourself, I have experienced those things. This is an invitation and an offer made to the crowds, made to everyone. A new way of seeing the world and a new way of being in the world is an offer made to everyone. And as you're watching this, I'm sure that you can see moments in your life, moments in your community where you decide it is time. It is time for a new way of being. It is time for a new way of seeing how the world works. See, this is open to everyone. And as you're watching this, perhaps you are a person who has experienced faith before. Perhaps you're just scrolling through and you happen to stop by. This invitation into a different power, and that's what we're talking about, is open to everyone. And see, some people responded. And when we see those who responded to this invitation to follow, we see people who left their businesses. Famously, Jesus invited some fishermen to leave your nets and just come and follow me. We're going to walk around. They were leaving their family business. They were poor. They left jobs to follow Jesus. They mourned because they left families to follow Jesus. Families who said, what are you doing? We have raised you to follow our traditions and you're going off after this new teacher. What are you doing? And they mourned that loss. Matter of fact, in that morning, some of those were already mistreated and misspoken about because they had the courage to step into a new way. Some of those early decisions meant that they were excluded from social gatherings in their day. They were persecuted. And yet, Jesus says there is something of a blessing. Yeah. And if your world is anything like our world, people speak about blessing all the time. They like to state and display how blessed their lives are. I mean, when we talk about this idea of blessing, I wonder what that means to you. What does being blessed mean to you?
I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's like all the good stuff that happens or that you have, and so therefore, when life doesn't go right, all of a sudden you're not blessed, or there's nothing that you can be thankful for.
Yeah.
But it seems like Jesus is turning things a little bit on their head there.
Well, but you're right, isn't it? Blessing is good things. And when we see people in the spotlight saying, I want to be blessed, or I am blessed, usually it's in front of a new house, or in front of a new car, or celebrating this incredible wedding. And there is great truth that those are good things to celebrate.
Yeah.
Graduations are good things. But what we see here is the blessing is not a new house. Matter of fact, the blessing is somewhere in his being poor, because when we are poor, we receive something beyond this world. That there's not a blessing in celebration here, but there's actually a blessing somewhere in mourning, because somewhere there we will receive a comfort beyond our means. That there is a blessing beyond this desire for justice, because somewhere, somehow, we will be satisfied. That there is a blessing when we keep ourselves pure, beyond just the purity, beyond just adhering to a code, obeying the rules, because there is an encounter beyond ourselves, that there is a blessing even when our faith leads us to be persecuted. And I want to be very clear here. As you're watching this, sometimes when we hear this word persecution, we talk about having a hard time because of faith. It's very easy to read ourselves into that picture. It's very easy to say, I'm not sure if I'm ready to make this step of faith. I don't want to get a hard time. Or I identify with Jesus, I get a hard time. Let's be clear that there were people in this crowd who were killed because they made a choice to see the world differently and to be different in the world. In the world that we live in right now, more people are losing their lives as a result of deciding to see the world from a new perspective, from Jesus' perspective, than ever before in history. More people are losing their lives because they have chosen a new way. Somewhere in there is a reality. And I want to add to what we've read, because Jesus makes a statement after this, and he says, you are the light of the world, the city on a hill that cannot be hidden. He is speaking to those of us who are poor. He is speaking to those of us who mourn. He is in the poor, in the poverty. There is a light that shines out of us when we encounter Jesus. In the morning, there is a light that shines out of us when we encounter Jesus. In the injustice, there is a light that shines out of us when we encounter Jesus. A light that says there is a different way to see the world, and there is a different way to be the world. And there is an encounter where in these moments of poverty, in these moments of humility, in these moments of injustice, in these moments of oppression and persecution, that we can cry out for the light of Jesus to shine on us. But as that happens, we actually become the light of the world. This is an invitation to everyone, not to seek the spotlight, but actually to become the headlights that light the way so that others can move forward in the light of Jesus. And we want to invite you tonight to become that light. And if that's a choice that you're willing to make, you want to see the world from a new perspective and you want to be a new way in this world, we'd invite you to pray just a very simple prayer with us right now. Jesus, I give you my life. You may be in poverty. Jesus, I give you my poverty. You may be mourning right now. Have the courage to give your tears and your mourning to Jesus. Jesus, I give you my life. You may be just living a humble life, and even as we're speaking now, you are thinking, what do I have to offer this world? We want to see enough to trust Jesus and say, Jesus, I give you my life. That as you're experiencing injustice and oppression, Jesus, I give you my life. And then we just ask for that beautiful exchange. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. Let me become the light of the world. Let my life become a light that shows the way for others to be different in this world, to see this world differently. And if that's a choice that you want to make, join us right now and let's just pray this simple prayer. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. If you prayed that prayer, you've just taken a step of faith. You have taken a step towards being a light in the world. We'd love to support you as you explore your next steps. Please DM us on the social channels, drop us a comment on YouTube, or if you're coming through Sydney, join us at this table with friends as we share food and faith. Thanks for tuning in.